everyone. My name is Effy. So I'm the CEO of a company called Zhang. So Zhang is a testing and observability platform for LLM apps. Before I started Zhang, I was at a company called Cruise. So a lot of people from US might be familiar. Cruise is a self-driving car company. And my job there is building ML ops tools at Cruise. So today I would like to share a little bit learning from building self-driving cars and how does that experience apply to building applications. First, the output is not binary. So similar with the AV, this is kind of like a one tool we build internally at Cruise. As you can see, to explain how AV performance actually very complex. This tool called WebWiz. You can see there are a lot of LiDAR radar sensor we had and how to visualize the data. And this is really similar to LLM today, as we're processing a lot of data is not the same as before. We can have like a simple like unit test and binary thing pass and fail. And a lot of times large language model output need more deep analysis, and the tooling around it is getting a lot more complex. The other part is changing the model is not that easy. So Cruise is about to launch this car Origin this year, and this car has no stereo in the car. And this car took us about like even 3 years ago when I worked at Cruise, we started to work on this like research paper around how to switching from the that model of car to this new model of cars. And similar with large language models, a lot of people start with GPT, and over the time they might want to use Llama Index. But oftentimes when you switch the model, you need to reevaluate your whole app performance end to end. Human are very creative. This is a very interesting news online. And Cruise car, whenever we see a safety stop, we have to stop. And so there's some people start to trick the car by putting like a traffic cone on top of the car, so the car will stop right there. And similar with people building with the LLM today. So your user might try to jailbreak. Your user might to trick the AI to share certain information they are not supposed to share. So this is something we need to watch for as we're building LLM features. Feedback is the key. This is an image when Cruise is trying to expand our service into Austin. And in Austin is a very interesting situation that the police sometimes ride a horse. That's something we never saw at San Francisco. So when the Cruise car expands to the new city, the car kind of got freaking out because they don't know how to identify this object. This is very common these days when we're building with large language model and a lot of use case, we don't really know exactly how end user will interact with our application. So oftentimes the best way we can do is collecting the feedback as we shipping, improving our product and iterating on the feature over time. User experience matters a lot. This is one of my favorite app called Clay. As you can see, this particular feature I'm trying to ask, it's a personal CRM. I'm trying to ask a question, if I want to host a dinner, who should I invite from my network? You can see this animation very similar with how Siri works. But roughly, we all know LLM takes time, and sometimes I saw a lot of developers do is really focus on performance, focus on latency and cost. But overall, what we actually deliver is end-to-end user features. And in this way, this particular app, they're trying to use very beautiful design animation to help us focus on other perspectives of the app than focus on the latency. And so overall, the experience turns out to better. So this is something give us some reminder. End of the day, we are trying to build a feature for the users, and how there's a lot of way work around LLM feature instead of like being limited by the latency, cost, and all the challenges it comes with. It's all about quick iteration cycles. This is from one of the Cruise blog. So very similar with large language models. We are trying to collect the data and use that through the monitor phases, and then bring that data, go back to prioritize the feature requirement, analysis the insights, and use that data, go back for testing and iteration. This is where it's true with large language models as well. As we're building features, it is a continuous development life cycle. It's a continuous cycle for iteration. And last one is brain team along. At Cruise, a lot of times what we do is we have the car running around on the road. Then we have a release team and QA team. They are trying to review all the data coming as we record all the events. And the other team actually on the front line analyzes all the data, summarize them to insights before they surface the insights to the engineer lead. Then the engineer lead work with the engineer team, figure out a solution. I saw this trend became more and more common with our users. A lot of team has PM and the engineer work together, and the PM or the operational role are the role actually doing the monitoring day by day. They're the people read all the user interaction, summarize them, and then bring them back to full iteration. And in certain cases, we saw PM also jump into the prompt iteration phases. They might write the prompt themselves, and they do a lot of testing as well. So this gave us some reminder if we could bring the domain expert into our development cycle, overall we can produce better results. So after all this, what I want to just end with something actionable you can take away as you are thinking about developing LLM features. First is the testing at different stage. So this is some learning at Cruise. I do think it directly apply with building large language models. So I see a lot of developers starting with really focused on particular LLM calls. But over time, we see people's workflow get a lot more complex. These days, we see developers are building like agents or building complex workflow. They normally need to chain multiple LLM calls together with third-party API calls with customer functions. So one way to think about testing, you can structure a test as 3 phases. One is a unit test. So here is the phase you are trying to test if a particular LLM call performs as expected. And then you can have a subsystem testing phase. So basically, you can have a particular sub workflow if it's a little bit separate from the rest application. You can test that particular workflow first to make sure the workflow output is accurate as expected before you pass into the next phase. And then after, you might want to end-to-end test, which the goal is trying to measure the end-to-end user journey. As we doing all these different test phases, it's also important to create a top-line metrics that reflects the end user experience. So at Cruise, when we're working on self-driving cars, we want to make sure the car is very comfortable for the customer. We want to make sure the car is very safe. And we also want to make sure the car can drive autonomously. So we have a metric called the takeover rate. So that's the metrics we use throughout the development cycle. I think that's very true to our LLM feature as well. So thinking about these days, we see a lot of developers really focus on cost and latency. But at the end of the day, if that delay is not going to impact your customer experience, or certain way you measure metrics, it has directly like a direct memory experience, you might want to create a sub-metrics correlated with the end experience. The end experience might be, if user click sum up, sum down to a particular interaction, or maybe user was able to achieve a particular task. Use that type of metrics, product metrics, as a product has top-line metrics as you're developing the feature, and then break down that top-line metrics into sub-metrics as different testing phases. So overall, the team has a very clear goal setting as you're going through different develop phases. And also, it's clear for the product owner, all the developers understand where we are, where the app performance is. So create more alignments, creating like shared goals. Another part is close the loop. So as I mentioned earlier around, we need to use the feedback to continue iterating. So no matter what your tech stack look like, which tool you're using right now, even you use like a different point solution for monitoring, for analysis, think about how do you bridge the gap to make that data pipeline is more streamlined. So as you have the data more integrated together over time, you can make iteration a lot faster. The last one is make it collaborative. Earlier I mentioned there are a lot of operational product roles are more involved in the day-by-day development process now. So how do you make your tool collaborative, bring in the non-technical user, give them ability to, annotating all the monitor results, testing result, review the test result, and also give them to empower them to directly impact the prompt, maybe do A/B testing, or give them to help them like fine-tune the model down the road. So that's overall will help the team move more efficient. That's all. If you have any question, feel free to check our website at visron.ai or email us directly. And thanks.